آل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأشرقت الأرض بنور ربها ووضع الكتاب وأشرقت الأرض بنور ربها ووضع الكتاب وجيء بالنبيين والشهداء وقضي بينهم بالحق وهم لا يظلمون. ووفيت كل نفس ما عملت وهو أعلم بما يفعلون. وسيق الذين كفروا إلى جهنم زمرا حتى إذا جاءوها فتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم رسل منكم ألم يأتكم رسل منكم يتلون عليكم آيات ربكم وينذرونكم لقاء يومكم هذا قالوا بلى ولكن حقت كلمة العذاب على الكافرين. قيل ادخلوا أبواب جهنم خالدين فيها فبئس مثوى المتكبرين. وسيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت فتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم. سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين. وقالوا الحمد لله الذي صدقنا وعده وأورثنا الأرض نتبوأ من الجنة حيث نشاء فنعم أجر الآملين. وترى الملائكة حافين من حول العرش يسبحون بحمد ربهم وقضي بينهم بالحق. وقضي بينهم بالحق وقيل الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز العليم. غافر الذنب وقابل التوب شديد العقاب ذي الطول لا إله إلا هو إليه المصير. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. For the love of the Holy Prophet and his holy family, please recite the second salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the reappearance of our awaited Savior, please recite the third salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. the salam and marsiya that I have tonight is about the commander of the forces of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in Karbala, Khamar Bani Hashim Hazrat Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam. The marsiya describes the scene where Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam falls on the ground and Imam Hussain salam makes it, goes towards his body. Abbas ke laashe pa ye shabbir pukare, utho mere bhai. Abbas ke laashe pa ye shabbir pukare, utho mere bhai. ہم خیمے سے یہاں آئے ہیں لینے کو تمہارے، ہم خیمے سے یہاں آئے ہیں لینے کو تمہارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی. پیری کا ساتھ چھن گیا، ہم ہو گئے بے آس، کوئی نہ رہا پاس، کوئی نہ رہا پاس. مان جاؤ تم ہی اے میرے پیری کے سہارے، مان جاؤ تم ہی اے میری پیری کے سہارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی. کیا یہ بھی کوئی محبت کا ہے انداز، اے عاشق جاں باز، اے عاشق جاں باز. دریا کو تو کہہ کر گئے کوثر کو سدھارے، دریا کو تو کہہ کر گئے کوثر کو سدھارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی. تم بالی سکینہ کے لیے لائے نہ پانی، وہ روتی ہے جانی، وہ روتی ہے جانی. بچی کی زبان دیکھو اور اس غر کے اشارے، بچی کی زبان دیکھو اور اصغر کے اشارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی. چھینی گئی ردا زینب کلثوم کے اسرار، یہ غازی جلاد، یہ غازی جلاد. ہم چھوڑ کے اب جائیں انہیں کس کے سہارے، ہم چھوڑ کے اب جائیں انہیں کس کے سہارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی. کہتے تھے وزیراں یہ جب شاہ دو عالم، ایک حشر تھا پہ ہم، ایک حشر تھا پہ ہم، تم مجھ سے ضعیفی میں جدا ہو گئے پیارے، تم مجھ سے ضعیفی میں جدا ہو گئے پیارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی، عباس کے لاش پہ یہ شبیر پکارے، اٹھو میرے بھائی، صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ جب صدر زی سے گر پڑے عباس باوفا، جنگل سے آئی گریہ زہرا کی بھی صدا، اکبر نے دوڑ کر شہ والا سے یہ کہا، چلیے حضور نہر پر مارے گئے چچا، بے دست دشمنوں نے کیا اس دلیر کو، روائیے ترائی میں حیدر کے شیر کو، روائیے ترائی میں حیدر کے شیر کو، یہ سن کے پیٹتے ہوئے اٹھے زمیں شاہ، فرمایا ہے غضب میرے بچے ہوئے تباہ، یہ کیا کہا کہ آنکھوں میں دن ہو گیا سیاہ، مظلوم سے بچھڑ گئے عباس، مدت ہوئی تمام سکینہ کے چین کی، توڑا فلک نے آج کمر کو حسین کی، توڑا فلک نے آج کمر کو حسین کی، یہ کہے کہ سوئے نہر چلے شاہ کربلا، مانند بیت کانپتے تھے شاہ کے دست و پا، امامہ تھا نہ فرق پا نے دوش پر ردا، تصویر وار تھے ہم تنصبت مصطفیٰ، مقتل کی خاک سے تنے انور اٹا ہوا، سینہ کھلا ہوا تھا غریباں پھٹا ہوا، سینہ کھلا ہوا تھا غریباں پھٹا ہوا، پہنچے جو ہی ترائی میں بادی دے پورا، دیکھا تپا ہے خاک پہ فرزند بو تراب، شانوں پکی نظر تو جگر کو رہی نہ تاب، بس ہائے بھائی کہہ کے گرا وہ فلک جناب، بیکار دست و پا تھے شہ خوش خصال کے، لے آئے لاش تک علی اکبر سنبھال کے، لے آئے لاش تک علی اکبر سنبھال کے، سن کر صدائے حضرت شبیر نامدار، کھولا لہو بھری ہوئی آنکھوں کو ایک بار، سر رکھ کے پائے شے پائے، بولا وہ ذی وقار، تشریف آپ لائے زہے عز و افتخار، جی چاہتا ہے یہ کہ نثار حضور ہوں، کس طرح اٹھ کے گرد پھروں چور چور ہوں، کس طرح اٹھ کے گرد پھروں چور چور ہوں، بیٹھے ہیں آپ اور میں لیٹا ہوا، کیا دور ہے حضور اگر بخش دے گناہ، سرشق ضرب گرز سے یا شاہدی پرا، کروٹ بھی اب تو لے نہیں سکتا ہے خیر کا، دکھتے ہیں بولنے میں जराहत फटे हुए, देखे हुजूर मेरे हैं बाजू कटे हुए, देखे हुजूर मेरे हैं बाजू कटे हुए। ये सुन के उस दिलेर ने एक सर्द आह की, मशकीज पा तड़प के बहसरत निगाह की, मुंह शर्म से छिपा लिया गोदी में शाह की, हालत तबाह हो गई हैदर के माँ की। जब दिल को बेकली हो तो किस तरह कल पड़े, जानू पशा के आंखों से आंसू निकल पड़े, जानू पशा के आंखों से आंसू निकल पड़े। ये कहते थे कि फिर गई आंखों की पुतलियां, हिचकी के साथ आ गई सूखे लबों पजा, हसरत से देख कर तरफे शाह इंसो जा, दुनिया को कूच कर गए अब्बा से नौजवान, दुनिया से कूच कर गए अब्बा से नौजवान। छोड़ा जरी ने साथ शहे मशरक़ैन का, एक गुल उठा के मर गया शेख हुसैन का, एक गुल उठा के मर गया शेख हुसैन का। सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। सिस्टर रिदा बिस्मिल्लाह।
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rida, and today I'm going to be speaking about Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Today is the 8th of Muharram. The family and friends of Imam Hussein alayhi salam are very thirsty. The children cry, Alatash, Alatash, we are thirsty, but there is no water. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam tried to dig for water, but no water was found. Some men tried to ask the army of Umar ibn Sa'd to give water at least for the children, but they didn't. They even tried to get water from the river, but were told there were no water for Hussein and his family. On the 8th of Muharram, we remember Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. He was 34 years old. He was very brave, and on the day of Ashur, Imam Hussein alayhi salam chose his brother Abbas alayhi salam to carry the alam, and is called Alam Dar-e Hussein. Imam Ali alayhi salam had always carried the alam, the flag of Islam, in the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One by one, the men in the family of the Imam were going to the battlefield and getting killed to save Islam. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam wanted to go and defend the Imam, but every time he went to ask, Imam Hussein alayhi salam said he would be told, "Not yet, Abbas, you are the Alamdar, the flag bearer of my army." At last, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam said sadly, "But my Imam, there is no army left. Everyone has been killed. The family of Jafar-e Tayyar and Aqil have been martyred. Akbar has gone, and O Muhammad are no more. Qasim's body has been trampled." How did the Imam agree to let Abbas go? Just then, Sakina, the 4-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, came with a dry musk water bag, saying, "Alatash, I'm so thirsty." The Imam said, "Go, Abbas, fetch some water for the children." Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam took his thirsty niece Sakina in his arms and said to her, "Give me the musk. Let me go and get water for you." He tied the musk to the alam and rode out to the battlefield. The army of Umar Sa'd had blocked the river bank. Hazrat Abbas bravely fought his way through to the river and filled the mushk with water. He didn't drink a drop of water himself. He took the alam and mushk filled with water and started to go back. When he came out from the river bank to take the water back to the children, he saw that the army were blocking his way. They attacked him from all sides, and one evil man cut his right arm off. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was so brave that now he carried the alam and mushk with his left arm. Alas, the left arm was cut off too. Now Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam held the alam between his chest and the horse. An arrow slit the mushk and the water flowed out. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was so sad that he turned his horse around. Umar Saad's army now attacked him again and again, till he fell from his horse. My last salams, Ya Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he cried. The Imam rushed out on hearing his brother's call. As he went to reach Abbas, he bent down and kissed something. A little later, he bent down again and picked up the other arm that had been cut off. He reached Abbas alayhi salam at last, as he lay down on the ground with the mushk and alam by him. Don't take me back to the Kaima tent, oh my Imam. I had promised to get water for Sakina, but I couldn't. Imam Hussain alayhi salam bent down and said, Oh my brother, Abbas, my back is broken now. He saw that Abbas alayhi salam had blood in his eyes. He wiped the blood off and took his head in his lap. Abbas alayhi salam looked at the Imam and closed his eyes forever. Imam Hussain alayhi salam wept. He took the alam and returned to the tent. The thirsty children, especially Sakina, were waiting at the door. When they saw Imam Hussain alayhi salam coming back with the alam without Abbas alayhi salam, she cried, Where is Uncle Abbas? Why didn't he come back? There was loud wailing and matam as all the children and the ladies gathered under the alam, which was now wet with blood. Thank you for listening, and that's all I have to say.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. A second time for the love of Fatima Az-Zahra, salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A third time for the love of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وصلى اللهم على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من عرف نفسه فقد عرف ربه. Please recite salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So now we are on the last few days and nights of the Ashra or the Ashura Majalis for Imam al-Hussain. And we have been talking about collectively the psychology and its relationship to Islamic mysticism. And many topics have been discussed. But today I want to go to a little bit more specific and general at the same time. Because we talked about the theoretical aspects of it, the relationship between psychology and Irfan, what the terms are, and we talked about different aspects of the subject. Today I want to talk to you about a practical side of it. Because you can leave the theory, you can have the theory. Irfan is not Irfan if there is no practical implication in the lives of the human being. It's all dry philosophy. Irfan as theoretical mysticism or Irfan in Nazari, it's philosophy unless it is taken outside of the textbooks of philosophy and applied in the real life of the human being. Reading Mullah Sadra is great, Reading Ibn Sina is great. Reading Suhrawardi is great. Reading Sheikh Faith Kashani is great. Sayyid Haider Amuli is great. But, let me further that. Reading Imam Khomeini is great. Reading Allama Tabatabai is great. But, what good is reading philosophy unless you can take it and implement it? For example, the famous book Adab al-Salat. Imam Khomeini wrote it. The story is, he says that in the introduction, they say that he was writing a book called Sirr al-Salat, also known as Asrar al-Salat, meaning the Sirr of Salat. And it was so difficult that the Urafa said, Imam, this is too difficult. So he simplified it, and the simplification was Adab al-Salat. Now, if you read the translation is bad, but you can read the original too. You read it, you feel like you want to read it, and then you turn it over to the side, maybe it makes sense this way, or you turn yourself upside down and start reading it upside down or something, because that's a really confusing book. But in it, he talks about the different veils that separate mankind from God. The different ideas. For example, knowledge is the greatest veil. Why? Because knowledge is the greatest asset, yes, if it leads you to God. But if it leads you to pride and conceit, and you think that the knowledge that you have is complete without the ideas and the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that knowledge is the greatest of sins. That knowledge distracts you from God. Therefore, every act, every station, every position in the salat has a purpose. Takbiratul ihram, complete submission. Submission to the will of God. That is the i'lan. The idea is when you begin your prayer, you have your niyyah. It's very important to have the niyyah. And then you think your niyyah, and then you say Allahu Akbar, meaning God is great. And what do you say after that? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise belongs to God, Lord of the worlds. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Maliki Yawmuddin, Master of the faith. And then you begin your dua. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone are we worshiping, do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim wa ad-dhalin. The path of those upon which you have sent your blessings, not the path of those you have cursed or led astray. Right? That's what you say, right? Now, in our brethren of Ahl Sunnah, and I say this with respect for Ahl Sunnah, because the statement of the Marja'iyya, especially Sayyid Sistani, Hafadullah, is that you should consider your brethren of Sunnah as to be yourself. And as a note, I would say what that means is Ahl Sunnah are the Mi'raj of Islam in that sense. And in that, as a note as well, what is happening in these modern times in Afghanistan, what happened before Daesh was defeated, is it not Sunnism? There's a misconception that somehow this is a Sunni Shia violence. No. These groups, they're Khawarij. Taliban is not Muslim yet, they're not Muslim. But because they say La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, technically from our point of view, the one who calls another person who is saying the kalima a kafir, his faith is called into question, not the faith of the person he's talking about. Going back to the main topic, our brethren of Sunnah, they don't recite the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim out loud, right? Of the surah. Now, In Fajr and Maghrib and Isha, we recite the surah loudly, but in Dhuhr and Asr, they say that you recite the surah quietly, but you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim with a loud voice, so that people can hear you. Now the story is, the historical incident is when Muawiyah was Khalifa, he came into the Prophet's mosque once and he was reciting prayer, and he said he did not say the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim loudly. And the reasoning he gave was that this Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim reminds people of Ali. Because you combine all of the Quran into one surah, you get Fatiha, right? You combine all of Fatiha, you condense it all into one sentence, you get Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You condense it more, you get the Ba. You condense it even more, you get the dot, and Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullahi alayhim says, I am the dot beneath the Ba of Bismillah. So as long as you have the dot of the Ba of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you will always remember Ali ibn Abi Talib. Salatu ala Muhammad ala Muhammad. A second time for the love of Ahlul Bayt, Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So people called him, in Urdu they would say Bismillah Chor, the Bismillah thief, the one who stole Bismillah from the namaz. And that is why when Amir al-Mu'mineen came back and was made Khalifa by the masses, of course his Khilafah is something that you cannot steal from him, because Rasulullah says, فَعَلِيٌّ مَوْلَى مَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَى فَعَلِيٌّ مَوْلَى, meaning right after Rasulullah passes, there's no time difference, and Ali becomes the Imam right away. So his Imamah, his Khilafah is right away. You cannot steal it. But we say that those who partook in Saqifa, and then Abu Bakr appointed Umar, and then Umar appointed a select group of few who chose Uthman. Of course, they were conspiring against Imam Ali, even though Imam Ali was amongst the select group of few that Umar chose. And they all performed the salat. But when Imam Ali became Khalifa, was recognized as Khalifa, he recited salat, and he says this reminds us of the salat of Rasulullah. Meaning for that time period, from Abu Bakr, from the death of Rasulullah to Imam Ali, Khilafah, the salat was altered so much that when he came and became Khalifa, they said this is the salat of Rasulullah. So now let us talk more about the nature of the prayer itself, and the nature of dua, and the nature of submitting yourself to the prayer, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the prayer. You see, Jamaat is great, but Imam Khomeini also, he says, Jamaat is great, but Jamaat is also that time of that congregational act where shaitan comes in and he starts attacking you left, right, and center. Because if you're alone, you can think, you can concentrate. But if you're in Jamaat, you are with people, you are following the Imam, and you are with people. That's the key point. And shaitan comes in and says, extend your sujood a little bit longer. Do the mustahabat a little bit longer. If the Imam is praying and he has proper Arabic and the proper recitation, you are the doubt that comes in is maybe he has bad character or not, or whatever, therefore you should not pray behind him. Even if you're praying behind him, maybe you should do furada, and then if you do furada, your prayer is better than theirs. And if your prayer is better than theirs, you should extend the sujood and the ruku and kunut and do longer surahs and everything. So these are ways in which shaitan comes in Jamaat. And it's harder if you try to concentrate in Jamaat because it's with the masses. The hasanat for Jamaat is great. It's greater, and I'm not denying that. Because the test is greater. You get to know your Muslim brother more. You get to talk about them. You get to say salamu alaikum to them. You get to worship together, which is a blessing. Syed Haider Amuli. Recite salat, please.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Sayyid Haider Amuli was a Shia Sufi. He was rich and he was living in, I believe, in Safi with Iran. And the idea came to him that he should dedicate himself to spirituality and mysticism. He was rich, he was wealthy, he felt that the wealth was going against his spirituality. Therefore, he took off his abba, imama, put on a tattered, I believe I mentioned this before, tattered cloth, and he went into Najaf and he sat with the Sufis over there and he was teaching Sufism. He mentions a few points for those when you are praying alone. How to increase concentration in the prayer. So for example, he says if you're praying alone, small room, no decoration, musalla should not be decorated as to distract you. And then he says that, recite salat please. Tattered janamaz is better than something that is ostentatious. Because when you look at it, right, you can extend your mustahabat alone with concentration. But when you are amongst people, it is not recommended for most mustahabat to actively show them off. Except for maybe namaz al-fayla and namaz al-shab. If you are with people, most mustahabat, and let me add to that the hifz of the Quran, it's mustahab to memorize the Quran, right? And when somebody memorizes the Quran, they say you should tell people to encourage others to have to memorize the Quran. But many of the other mustahabat, they say alone. But shorten your prayers. When you are with people, you can read longer prayers when you are alone. You can recite all of ziyarat of dua Jawshan Kabir in your qunut. That's fine when you're alone. But when you are with people, please, especially for those who are leading the Jamaat, please don't recite dua Jawshan Kabir in your qunut. People are going to get very angry with you with that. So simple things. Increase concentration. And you know what? In the school of Ahlul Bayt, we have prime examples of people who were living in the time of even the ghaiba of Sahib al-Zaman. I mentioned the 313 companions. But those who were living hundreds of years before us during the period of the occultation still, that reached such a high stance that they were noted for their love for Ahlul Bayt. Not only that, but Ahlul Bayt would love them even more. One such example, imagine this, Muqaddas al-Dabili. He lived during the time of the Safavid era, I believe, but he lived in Najaf. He was a mujtahid. It is said that one time he would get up for Salatul Layl and he would want to pray. One time he went, there was no water pipes come into the house, water come to the house. You had to go to the well to get the water. And he was running late for the prayer and he prayed within time, alhamdulillah. And he said he went to the well, he put the bucket into the well and he was picking it up. He saw it, all the water had turned into gems. He threw the gems away. Imagine if we saw the gems We take it and we build a mansion because of it. He threw the gems away. He put it again, another time, gems. And again, he turned to the haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, Ya Ali, I did not ask for gems. I asked for water for which I can do wudu for my salat al-layl. This individual, when he used to go to the haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he used to say, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he would get the reply right away. Amir al-Mu'mineen would call from his grave, saying, Wa alaykum salam. People, not only could he hear it, other people could hear it. That's how high of a stance that he had. And I'll get to examples in our times as well. But the other situation with Muqaddas al-Dabili, once he was traveling, I forget from where to where, but I think he was going to Najaf, maybe from Basra, but some distant place. So somebody comes up to him, he was walking Muqaddas, somebody comes up to him and he says, do you want to ride? He says, I'm okay. He said, no, I insist. So he gets on the horse. There's no cars. This is 400 years ago. People are on horses and camels and donkeys. Right? So he gets on. The person who's directing the horse, who's riding in front of him, he says, where are you from? He says, I'm from Ardabil, which is a city in Iran, which is a place in Iran. He says, then you must know Fulan Alim. How is he? It wasn't him he was talking about. He says he's great, he's very muttaqi, he's very, and then he said, you must know Fulan Alim. He's an amazing person, and Fulan. So he says, the person in front of the Muqaddas says, then you must know this guy. He's known as Muqaddas al-Dabili. And what do you think about him? He's like, he's not a good character. He's a horrible person. Bad akhlaq, bad alim, and everything. He humbles himself that much. The guy in front of him says, if that is the case, why are you on Imam al-Zaman's horse riding with Imam al-Zaman in front of you? Meaning Imam al-Zaman is saying this, that if you are Muqaddas al-Dabili and you are that bad of a person, how come I have chosen you to ride with me? That is high situation. And then of course, we have our time. Imam Khomeini comes to mind. My uncle used to tell us this story about Imam Khomeini. When he passed, they were debating where to bury him because Imam Khomeini is Imam Khomeini. They wanted to bury him in the best place. So they, of course, his will was to bury him next to the Shuhada of Bahisht Az-Zahra. So they buried him there. But there's another reasoning behind that exact place. There was a farm there before. Bahisht Az-Zahra is huge. They could have buried him anywhere. So the farmer, he called the government official. He says, I think you should bury Imam in my farm. And they ask him, why? Why do you think your farm is that great of a place? He says, last night I saw Fidda, the Kaniz of Fatima Az-Zahra in my dream. She says, I am telling you, my son will be buried here. I want this ground to be for the burial of my son. Imagine that. Now, when we talk about all of this, how do people get to the station? They have true ma'rifah of Allah. True, deep, well thought out comprehension, understanding of what Allah wants from us. They have the ma'rifah of the Imam, whereby they might be living 400 years, 500,000-600,000 years in the ghaibah, but Imams themselves send their salutations to them, like Muqaddas. Imagine if we go to the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen, of course we say, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, we recite the Idhn al-Dukhul, and of course our iman is when somebody says salam to you, it is wajib that you get the jawab back. Therefore the Imam is saying, wa alayka salam, we can't hear him. Imagine if we could hear the Imam saying, wa alayka salam. What high station would we be at? It's not that they recite Dua Joshan Kabir with 1,000 plus Asma al-Husna and they just go at it as like a machine, as robots. They understand it. They understand the full depth of it. As I mentioned Dua Joshan Kabir and Asma al-Husna, we say usually that there are 99 Asma al-Husna, right? But in Dua Joshan al-Kabir, we recite about 1,000 of them. What's the difference? The reality is, they are in the world, in the universe, there's an unlimited number of Asma al-Husna. Because when we say Asma al-Husna, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تَوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you go, east or west, wherever you go, God is the east and west, so wherever you go, you see the face of God. What is a face? A face is a sign pointing to a reality. The same way a name is a sign pointing to the reality of God. Just because this world is the name of God. What remains, wherever you go, is the face of God. It is a sign pointing to the reality. Now, we might say that there are an infinite number of Asma al-Husna. We might say that the Asma al-Husna in Dua Joshan Kabir are 1,000 plus, and that there are 99 words that we usually call. But they say that Asma al-Husna are that many, unlimited, 1,000, 99. But Asma ul-A'azam are 14. And the Aimma have said, Nahnu, we are the high names. The Asma ul-A'azam, the high names. We are the high names of God. Imagine that. Please recite salawat. A second time for the love of Fatima Az-Zahra sallallahu alaihi Muhammad. Imagine now that we are living in the ghaibah of Sahib al-Zaman. Imagine if we have the high station in Irfan that the Imam calls us the Abbas of my army, or the Ali Akbar of my army, or the Qasim of his army. Imagine what a high status that must be. I've said this previously, it's hard in general in 2021 in the world to live a spiritual life. But it is harder. It is harder in America to live it because we have so many physical distractions. And I don't mean haram. They're jaiz, halal distractions. But they veil us from God. The food that we eat, for example. Speaking of Arafah, I've heard that I think it's again Imam Khomeini and Sayyid Sistani as well, in this Sayyid Khamenei as well. On their home, they have the most basic food. Yogurt and chopped onions, they mix it up with the yogurt and they eat it. But here, the Arafah that I know from amongst the ulama, they go against, they say here that's not practicable, that's showing off in America. So you have the regular food, and you have the desire for that regular food, but you still want to remember God, and this food is supposed to be a distraction from God. It makes it harder for you to remember God, but you eat it and you drink it, and then you try 10 times harder to get to the reality of God. Whereas, if you're in a Najaf, you're living and in the Hawza, you're living off cheese and bread, or maybe some eggs once in a while. Here you have the blessings, but those blessings are a blessing if they remind you of God. If they don't remind you of God, they're a distraction. You see, a materialist, divine guidance comes to everybody. Everybody gets it. God guides. He gave us reason, the inner prophet. We have the ability to think about the realities of the world. If we do not do so, then it's our mistake, not God's mistake. And we need to make sure that we have the proper understanding of the religion. We need to make sure we have the true nature of Islam. Islam is not a religion of rigidity, brothers and sisters. The Quran calls the Muslims the moderate nation. We created you as a moderate nation, meaning we're not supposed to go to extremes. Not just extremes of wealth or pomp or power or show, but religious extremism, where people use the guise of religion to promote their own views. They become so rigid that they shut people off. If you're not following the exact same way I am, then you're not a Muslim. Well, I'm not saying that. But that's the idea. If you don't pray the way I pray, if you don't sit the way I sit, if you don't fast the way I fast, somebody might be reciting prayers all night, but if they think that the other person is not a Muslim because they're not praying all night, that's a problem on their faith, not the Muslim, not the other brothers or sisters. We become so narrow-minded that we forget to see. I conclude with this. Inshallah, tonight we are talking about the musibah of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. In the wasiyyah of Fatima Az-Zahra salamullahi alayha to Amir al-Mu'mineen, she says to him, you should marry again because I know you will need somebody to take care of the house. But Imam Ali, he gets married afterwards. He didn't marry anybody during the time of Fatima Az-Zahra was alive. He married afterwards. One of his desires or hopes or prayers and what he wanted was to have a son that would protect Abu Abdullah al-Husayn in Karbala. So he goes to his brother Aqil. Aqil was known for his understanding of the Arab genealogy trees. He says, Aqil, find me a wife from that tribe that is known for his valor so that I can have a son that can protect my son Hussein, the son of Rasulullah Hussein in Karbala. Aqil recommends the tribe of Banu al-Baneen. Baneen, he recommends the proposal to al-Baneen. Baneen, she marries Imam Ali, but her love of Fatima Az-Zahra. Baneen was not her was not her real name. Baneen means mother of many. Baneen, mother of many sons. When her real name was Fatima. But when she got married to Amir al-Mu'mineen, she said to him, oh master, don't call me Fatima, because when you say that name, I don't want Hassan and Hussein and Zainab and Kulthum to cry because of me thinking of their mother. Please call me a different name. Baneen had 4 sons. One of her sons, his name is Abbas. Abbas was born for Karbala. He had known that he was born for Karbala. And you know what? Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was always told in a time of difficulty by the Imams that Abbas, do not pick up the sword to go fight. Abbas had the desire. He always had the desire to fight for the defense of the Imam. When Amir al-Mu'mineen passed away and left this world, Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayh passes away and leaves this world. You know what? Abbas is ready to fight. But then the next Imam al-Hassan says, Abbas, put away your sword. This is not the time to fight. The tamanna, the desire of Abbas to fight becomes broken once. And then Imam al-Hassan becomes the Imam. Imam al-Hassan gets poisoned by his wife. Imam al-Hussein has to prepare the janazah for Imam al-Hassan. They take out the janazah, and arrows, when the janazah passes the house of one Maulana, they throw arrows at the body of Imam, the kafan of Imam al-Hassan. They throw arrows at the janazah of Imam al-Hassan. Abu al-Fadl Abbas gets ready to fight, but the Imam next following Imam al-Hassan, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he says, Abbas, it's not the time to fight now. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, his tamanna becomes broken again. Now they reach Karbala. Ahl al-Bayt have reached Karbala, and you know what? At the beginning, the tents of the haram of Rasulullah, the tents of the haram of Imam al-Hussein, they were situated by the riverbank. Now, when the command came to remove the tents, I believe it was around the 4th or 5th of Muharram to remove the tents, Abu Fadl Abbas got Jalal again. He took out his sword. Who dare force us to move the tents when my master Hussein has ordered us to camp here? And then when Imam al-Hussein hears this, he says, Abbas, and then Abbas hears that his master is calling him. He draws a line in the sand. Nobody is to cross that line. And then he goes to Imam al-Hussein. He says, it is not the time to fight. On the day of Ashura, it is said that when the Hamla, when the fighting began, Abu al-Fadl Abbas says, Mawla, on the night of Ashura, they say on the 9th of Muharram, they say that the attacks had begun. Imam al-Hussein had to ask for another night of muhalat for them. When Abu al-Fadl Abbas heard that the fight had begun, he knew Imam Hussein would never let him fight if he was the one initiating the fight. The Imams never initiated a fight. All they did was respond to it. So when he heard that the fighting from the enemies had begun, he said, Mawla, the battle has started. You know what he was really saying? Mawla, give me permission. I will go fight and show them what the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib can do. I will show them what the blood of al-Banin does to a man. And he says, Abbas, this is not the time to fight. The 10th of Muharram comes. One by one, the companions get slaughtered in the way of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, in the way of Islam. You know what? One by one, the companion comes and they all get slaughtered. Abbas is asking permission again and again and again and again, and he keeps on getting denied. He says, Mawla, give me permission. Every time he asks for permission, his Mawla says, Abbas, you are the standard bearer of my army. How can I let you go? An army is known by its flag bearer. You are the hope for my forces, is what he is saying, Abbas. You are the hope for the children and the women. How can I let you go? He is saying, you are my hope, Abbas. How can I let you go? All the companions get slaughtered. Hur goes, Habib goes, Muslim ibn Awsaja goes, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn goes, John goes, Wahab goes. They all get slaughtered. Now it is time for Ahl al-Bayt. There is a discrepancy in the rawayat as to when Abu Fadl Abbas was given permission to go fight. Some say that Ali Akbar was given permission to go fight first, and Abbas reached martyrdom later. And some say that Abbas went first and Ali Akbar went last. I asked Sheikh Fadl Sahlani, Ayatollah Sistani's representative, what is the case? He says that the first case is most likely true. Now imagine being Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, he is constantly even now asking for permission. Imam al-Hussein keeps on denying him, keeps on saying, you are the standard bearer of my army. He says now after a while, Master, where is the army now? Everybody is gone. Give me permission. He says, fine, I give you permission, but first he tells him not to go fight. He wants him to get water, but first he says, go to the tent and speak to your sister Zainab. When he goes to the tent and asks for her permission to go fight, Lady Zainab says, Abbas, when my father was alive, when I was a child, he always used to kiss my hands and my head. I never had the courage to ask him why he did that until the days that he was on his deathbed. He said, Zainab, there will be a time when your veil will be stolen and your hands will be tied in ropes. Abbas, she says, I never thought that Abbas, as long as I had a brother like Abbas, that nobody would steal my veil, that nobody would tie my hands up in ropes. She says, now I know Abbas, now I know my veil will be stolen and my hands will be tied. Abu al-Fadl Abbas goes. He gets permission to get water for the children of Ahlul Bayt. He does not get permission to go fight. It is said by some that he didn't even bring the sword. He brought an arrow through which he could disperse the enemies. He reaches the riverbank. He goes down. He goes down off his horse. He goes to the riverbank and he cups his hand into the water. He looks into the water and he says, Ya nafs, min ba'd al-Husayni huni. Oh nafs, nothing counts after Hussein. Nothing counts after Hussein. You know what? He threw that water away. He filled up the water bag, the water skin, and he goes back. The cry comes, nobody wants to come near Abbas. The cry comes that if water reaches Hussein today, no, Yazid will not leave you. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, nobody can stop him. It is said that he passes to an area where there's some trees. There's a man behind him, behind one of those trees. He comes up behind Abu al-Fadl Abbas and he chops off his right arm. Somebody else comes. He chops off his left arm. Somebody throws an arrow. It pierces the water bag. Another person throws an arrow. The arrow lands in Abu al-Fadl Abbas's eye. Somebody takes a sword from behind and he strikes Abbas on the head. Abu al-Fadl Abbas falls. al-Banin used to recite the poetry of the Marsiya of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, that, oh people, when somebody usually falls off the horse, they have hands to break their fall. When my Abbas fell, he didn't have any he didn't have any hands. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, Imam al-Hussein, Abu al-Fadl Abbas cries out for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein comes. He says, now my back has been broken. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, Imam al-Hussein goes to Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Remember, there's an arrow in one of his eyes. And he is bleeding profusely. Blood has covered both of his eyes. When Abu Abdullah al-Hussein approaches al-Abbas, Abbas thinks it's the enemy. He says, give me some time. I want to say Khuda Hafiz or my last farewells to my master Hussein. Imam Hussein says, this is your brother Abbas. Abbas gives Abu Abdullah al-Hussein 2 wasiyah. They say that first Imam al-Hussein puts his brother's head on his lap. Abu al-Fadl Abbas removed his head from his lap, saying, Master, right now you are here, but in a little while you will be alone, and there will be nobody to put your head on their lap. He leaves 2 wasiyah, saying, Master, first of all, don't bring me back to the tent. I am too shy in front of Sakina. And second of all, tell my sister Lady Zainab that I'm sorry. I was the one that mounted her on her camel to Karbala, but I won't be there to mount her back. Abu al-Fadl Abbas says this, and Imam al-Hussein has a request from Abbas as well. And I conclude with this point. He says, Abbas, your whole life you have called me master. For one time, one time I want you to call me brother. Baneen had taught her children that they were not the brothers and sisters of Fatima Zahra's children. They were her servants. But it was the command of the Imam. So breathing his last, Abu al-Fadl Abbas cried out, "Oh brother," to Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم Hussein.
من زاده علی مرتضایم، من زاده علی مرتضایم، من شاهباز ملک لافتایم، فضل و شرف همین بس است برایم، که خادمم به درگه حسینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، خدمت گزار زاده بتولم، من باغبان گلشن رسولم، زفسردگی گلشنش ملولم، دارم دل شکسته و غمینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، سقای تشنگان بی پناهم، دشمن اگرچه گشت خار راهم، سقای تشنگان بی پناهم، دشمن اگرچه گشت خار راهم، من یک تن حریف این سپاهم، انی احامی ابدا عن دینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، انی احامی ابدا عن دینی، افتاده ام کنار آب لغزان، آیم بر آب و قلب من فروزان، در آب و آتشم چو شمع سوزان، سوزم ز خاطرات آتشینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، انی احامی ابدا عن دینی، والله ان قطعتم. یا رب مدد کن این فرس برانم، وین آب را به خیمه گه رسانم، یا رب مدد کن این فرس برانم، وین آب را به خیمه گه رسانم، دیگر چه غم که بعد از آن نمانم، جانم فدای عشق نازنینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، انی احامی ابدا عن دینی، والله ان قطعتم. در خاک و خون دلم از این غمین است، که از آتش لب تو آتشین است، دستم جدا فتاده بر زمین است، در فرق من عمود آهنینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، انی احامی ابدا عن دینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، والله ان قطعتم یمینی، انی احامی ابدا عن دینی. ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک در دم رفتن بیا جسم مجروح مرا کن بلند از روی خاک یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای ولی کردگار وی امام و رهبرم منصب سقاییت بود چون تاج سرم خواستم آب آورم بهر طفلان در حرم ریخت و آب دریخ پیکرم شد چاک چاک یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک سرور و مولای من کن به عباست نظر نی مرا دستی به تن نی توان بر تن دگر با عمود آهنین خرد گشته فرق سر من همان شیرم که بود شیر از من بیمناک یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا در ره دین خدا هر دو دستم شد جدا بیرق سربازیت گشته از دستم رها آیه رحمت تویی از غلامت شو رضا چون تویی مولای من از بخون خفتن چه باک یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ادرک اخاک جان صدها مثل من باد قربانت حسین جان صدها مثل من باد قربانت حسین چون مرا یاد آید از لعل عطشانت حسین چون مرا یاد آید از لعل عطشانت حسین خون بگریم سر نهم زیر بانت حسین کز غم بیاریت سینه ام شد دردناک یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم یا اخا ادرک اخاک ای برادر جان حسین شد علم دارد فدا یا اخا ای علم افراشته در عالمین اکشف و یا کاشف کرب الحسین ای علم افراشته در عالمین اکشف و یا کاشف کرب الحسین ای یل حیدر ساقی لشکر ای یل حیدر ساقی لشکر ای علم افراشته در عالمین اکشف و یا کاشف کرب الحسین ای علم افراشته در عالمین اکشف و یا کاشف کرب الحسین ای یل حیدر ساقی لشکر الله اکبر الله اکبر حسین سرباز ره دین بود عاقبت حق طلبی این بود حسین سرباز ره دین بود عاقبت حق طلبی این بود از سر نی گفت سبت پیامبر الله اکبر الله اکبر حسین سرباز ره دین بود عاقبت حق طلبی این بود از سر نی گفت سبت پیامبر الله اکبر الله اکبر سقای دشت کربلا ابوالفضل دستت شده از تن جدا ابوالفضل سقای دشت کربلا ابوالفضل دستت شده از تن جدا ای یل حیدر ساقی کوثر الله اکبر الله اکبر یا حسین یا حسین
اللهم اغن كل فقير اللهم اشف كل جار اللهم اشف كل مريض اللهم اشف كل مريض بحق حضرت عباس بیٹا ہے تو علی کا زہرا کی تو دعا ہے شبیر تیرا آقا ام البنین ماں ہے ہر صورت و چلن میں حیدر سے نہ جدا ہے حشر تجھ سے قائم دنیا میں بس وفا ہے عباس 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 تیرے علم کو تھامے ہر شخص کہہ رہا ہے مظلوم کربلا کا زینب کا واسطہ ہے پردیس کوئی ایسا پردیس میں نہ اجڑے صدقے میں اس کے جس کا دربار لٹ گیا ہے عباس 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 اس وقت جب کہ زینب دربار میں گئی تھی قاری نمازیوں سے محفل سجی ہوئی تھی ظالم یہ پوچھتا تھا غازی تیرا کہاں ہے بالوں سے منہ چھپائے زینب یہ کہہ رہی تھی عباس 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 تقدیر کے ستائے تیرے در پہ سر جھکائے اشکوں کی التجا ہم غازی تجھے سنائے بیمار سارباں کے زخموں کا واسطہ ہے جتنے بھی خستہ دل ہیں مولا شفا وہ پائے عباس 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 دل کی مراد غازی تیرے علم سے پائے روتی ہوئی جو مائیں تیرے علم پہ آئے زہرا کے درد پہلو کا دیتی ہے واسطہ یہ ذات کنیزی میں تیرا بھی نام آئے. شام غریبہ میں جس کا کرتا جل گیا ہے، کانوں سے بالیاں بھی ہائے شمر لے گیا ہے. اس بے کسی سے مولا بچی کوئی نہ کر سے، فرش عزا پہ رو کر ہر دل یہ کہہ رہا ہے. جتنے بھی اشک مولا تیرے تاج پر گرے ہیں، معصوموں کی قسم یہ غازی فقط تیرے ہیں. وہ کچھ رقم کروں میں جو نہ رقم ہوا ہے، الفاظ وہ عطا کر یاور سے جو پرے ہیں.
شاہ حسین 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 شاہ حسین.
وفا کو ناز ہے جس پر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں، لگے جو ثانیے حیدر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. جو پتھر پر علم گاڑے اسے کہتے ہیں سب حیدر. علم گاڑے جو پانی پر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. علم گاڑے جو پانی پر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. علی کا خون زہرا کی دعا شبیر کی چاہت بنے ان سب سے جو مل کر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. یا حسین یا حسین ہو گئی شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں. ہو گئی شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں. ہو گئی شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں. جھولا جلتا ہی رہا جھولا جلتا ہی رہا جھولے سے لپٹی رہی ماں. ہو گئی شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں. ہو گئی شام
لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
ہو گئی
شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
خالی حجروں میں سسکنے کو گیا سناٹا، سین میں خاک اڑاتا ہوا دن آ کے گیا، جیسے بیٹھی تھی اسی، جیسے بیٹھی تھی اسی طرح سے بیٹھی رہی ماں،
ہو گئی شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں، ہو گئی شام دھواں. جواب دیں گے.
لوری دیتی رہی ماں، ہو گئی
شام دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
پیاس بڑھتی رہی، سوکھے ہوئے سارے ساگر، کان دریا کی طرف آ کہ علی اصغر پر پانی بہنے کی صدا، پانی بہنے کی صدا خیمے میں سنتی رہی ماں، ہو گئی شام دھواں
لوری دیتی رہی ماں، ہو گئی دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
ہو گئی شام،
لوری دیتی رہی ماں.
آئے جلتے ہوئے خیمے میں سکینہ ہے نوید، درمیاں شولوں میں جلتا ہوا جھولا ہے نوید، دونوں کو تھامے ہوئے، دونوں کو تھامے ہوئے آگ میں جلتی رہی ماں، ہو گئی شام دھواں
لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
ہو گئی شام
دھواں لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
ہو گئی شام دھواں
لوری دیتی رہی ماں،
ہو گئی شام
شام دھواں لوری دیتی. وہ عابدے
بیمار تھا، وہ عابد بیمار تھا،
وہ چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا،
چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا،
اور شام کا بازار تھا،
اور شام کا بازار تھا،
اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین،
مولا حق امام یا حسن
یا حسین،
یا حسین،
شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی،
شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی،
وہ سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلی،
سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلی،
جس کی ابارن میں جلی،
جس کی ابارن میں جلی،
وہ منہ پر تماچوں کے نشان، مولا حق
امام
یا حسن یا حسین، مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین. اور شام غریب آ گئی،
شام غریب آ گئی،
وہ عابد کو غیرت کھا گئی،
عابد کو غیرت کھا گئی،
وہ پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی،
پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی،
عباس اور اکبر کہاں،
مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین، مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا عباس 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 یا
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم سائر الشهداء كربلاء، خصوصا سيدي مولاي أبا الفضل العباس يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا سلطان يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسأل الله تعالى مخرجك وزهورك. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات اللهم صل على
नारे हैदरी। हो गया। हो गया।
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد و آل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر جل جلاله وجل شانه. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله ووصي رسول الله وخليفته بلا فصل عليه الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله عليه الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل. هيا على الصلاة هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح هيا على خير العمل هيا على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على